Welcome back to the studio. I'm continuing work on this commission, and I'm going to be working on the little rooster. My collector he loves including members of his family and all by incorporating symbols of the year they were born in the Chinese zodiac. So he is a rooster. And I showed you a picture of the entire painting in the very beginning. The horses in the background represent his wife and one of his sons. And then also in the lower right corner is a rabbit, which is his other son. And then these symbols here along the base of the fountain are the years in which some of the other members of their family have been born, extended family. Jen's mother was born in the year of the ox, her stepmother in the year of the tiger. Jen and one of her step-siblings is a horse. The rooster is another one, and then one was born, or actually a couple were born in the year of the snake. So it's really always fun kind of doing that. And so anyway, let's get to work on this little rooster. And I'm using a mixture of Viridian green plus white to start doing his tail feathers, the iridescence of these tail feathers. And they look all the brighter because they're against the complementary color red that's in that door. And by placing complementary colors next to each other, in other words, that's colors that are across from each other on the color wheel. By putting those colors together, it makes them appear brighter. So the red and the green is like Christmas. You've got red and green, and then the red and the green appear much brighter than they are when they're by themselves. So that's one of the little tricks in paintings. I've used that a lot in my paintings, and that helps contribute to the brightness of my paintings. But I'm just using again that Viridian green plus a little bit of white, and just using the side of my brush. This is a bright brush. It's got a square tip, but it enables me to make these really nice brush strokes. Now I've saved some of my red from the door. It's cadmium red deep plus alizarin crimson, and that I can come back in now, and again using that brush sideways I can just work into that nice little narrow space. Make a few little splits in the tail feathers. I have to be careful because when my brush picks up the green, it darkens the red, so you can see right there. So I have to be very careful. Come back with a clean, keep wiping my brush to keep it clean. But I can just come back in. And by pulling from the red into the feathers, that keeps me from picking up that green on my brush. There's a little tiny space right here. Come down. Okay. I just love painting roosters. They're just fun. They're just have such great confidence and fun little birds. I'd love to have one that just woke me up every morning with his crowing, but I don't think my neighbors would be very happy about that. So I just have to be content with painting them and just thinking about those crows in the mornings. They have a tendency to start really, really early. They may see city lights instead of the sun, and I'm sure my neighbors at 4 o'clock in the morning would not want to hear a rooster. So that's one reason I don't have a rooster. Probably the main reason. Now I'm going to use, let me get it here, I forgot to squeeze it out. The tail feathers underneath at the base of their tail, a lot of times they're nice and just solid black. So I'm going to use ivory black for those tail feathers. They just come down over this door. And I've painted the background, already painted the floor behind this rooster so that I can drag his legs and drag these feathers in there. You can see I can just use the corner. That brush is pretty big, but I can just use that little corner to do that. Now I'm using some phthalo blue plus that ivory black to make his upper legs here. And I'll bring some of this down in here. Now I'm going to make a mix of my, oops, you get me some ultramarine blue. I didn't have all my color out here. I'm neglectful there. But this is my paint. I use Winton Winsor Newton Winton oil paints. A lot of people ask me what brand oils I would recommend. These are what they call a student grade oil paint, but I find them perfectly acceptable. I have painted literally probably 2,000, maybe 3,000 paintings using these oil paints, and they are very archival. They last, they don't fade. Jack used them on $40,000 portraits, so I have no qualms whatsoever. They're less expensive. I can get them in the 200 milliliter tubes, and I use a lot of paint, and they work perfectly for me. So I'm using ultramarine plus a little bit of white, ultramarine blue plus a little bit of white for his chest feathers. And now his legs, this is a mix of my mud, which is 2 parts of the ultramarine blue, plus 1 part of alizarin crimson. And I can just drag his feet and leg into that floor. And I don't want them real distinct, just want to give him a nice solid base here. And I need to come back in and kind of paint that floor around his feet there. I left my sketch just so I'd know where they'd go, knowing that I've got a little bit of that color left, and I can just come back and paint around him. I'll paint the floor later, but this I wanted to just get the floor around his legs so I could go ahead and get his legs in there. Legs and feet, or legs and talons. And they have a little spur on the back of their leg. Just pull that into the wet floor. So there's our legs of the rooster. Now his upper neck, I'm using my mixes of mud plus a little bit of cadmium yellow medium plus a little bit of cadmium orange. And then I'm going to use a little more orange in this mixture. Now the sun's coming in from the upper left, so this side of his neck is darker. Now I'm going to go to a little smaller brush. Now this is one of the few exceptions I use. The brushes I use are the square bright brushes. This is called a filbert, and it's got a little bit rounder tip. And it just makes it a little bit easier for me to work right in here and get around his head. I just bring these. Now this back part of his head and neck are going to be in the sunlight, because the light's coming in this way. And I also saved my background color, the wall color, So I can come back in. I made his neck just a little bit thick there. So I can come back in and, now it's too thin, but I can come back in now and make the little, oops, got a hair in that. And I'll bring a little orange into that just to give him some brightness, bring some light into that, a little more life into it. Then the saddle on his back, the saddle is the feathers coming over. Let's see, first before I do that, I want to do his wing. His wing is, this is my mixes of my phthalo blue plus a little bit of white. The top of the wing is that, and then the bottom part of the wing, the longer feathers in the wing are this terracotta color or burnt sienna, and again this is my mud plus cadmium orange. Just make this again, this bright brush gives me that feather shape. Now I'm going to come back over his back with the saddle, and I want to, I'm going to get a little magenta here, use for that. I like to add a little more color in my roosters than probably you normally see, but I just like colorful roosters. Here's this, and this comes, these feathers come over. I have my reference material on my laptop, so I can refer to that as I'm painting. Make a little lighter mixture. Just add a little white into that magenta. Magenta is a color that, a special color that I use. You can get magenta, and again, it comes in the Winton oil paints, and it's just a nice purpley red. Filbert brush here to make these feathers where they come down over, and they just come over the back of the rooster. That's a little bit light. And you can see I can place my hand against the unpainted part of the canvas to kind of help steady my hand. These feathers come down. They come down pretty far. And it's just like a saddle coming over the back of the rooster. Get a little bit darker here where it falls over, and they fall over the ends of the wing. Now I'm going to bring some of the tail feathers, because the tail feathers arch over. So they'll come over that saddle. And they just come over. I let the light hit them. These feathers get a touch of light up there. This one does. And so that's how we paint the rooster. I'd already done his comb when I'd painted my wall, so that's already in there. And so that's how I do the rooster. A little more light there on that feather. He's a little behind the wall, so this tile comes in front of him, and I'm going to actually fix this. I painted over that back tile just a little bit. So I can just come then and bring those tiles back over those feathers. And I want them to be a little bluer back here, so that makes that part of that tile on the base of this, the base of the fountain, those flat tiles, by making them bluer back here, cool colors go back, that's your blues, and warm colors come forward. So I make these tiles a little more red-orange, more sienna colored, and then they come forward, and then those with the blue go back. So I really appreciate you watching my YouTube videos. Please, to see the entire step-by-step process of this painting, visit my blog. The link is in the description below. And I just thank you so much. You have a wonderful, wonderful day, and happy painting.